Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Thank you for being an awesome pledgehammer on Patreon, the Mayor of Painesville, Dan! It's been 1 week since The Fiend made his in-ring debut at SummerSlam, and I genuinely can't stop thinking about it. The music, the look, the in-ring changes, the character, it all makes for some truly engaging television. Since its inception, Bray Wyatt's new character has been heavily linked with his previous ones, throwing in references and throwbacks to them throughout the Firefly Funhouse segments. But the references didn't stop there. Some people have called The Fiend's in-ring debut at SummerSlam perfection, and those people would be Luke. But it and the entire character have been laced with even more Easter eggs and references that you could raise a candle to, or raise a lantern to. As such, let's break it all down as your boy Chopper is here to run through 9 Bray Wyatt Fiend Easter eggs that you might have missed. Before we start, make sure to press the thumbs up, subscribe, and enable notifications by pressing the bell icon, and leave us a comment below answering the question of the day, which today is, what is your favorite reference Bray Wyatt has made to his past? Now, let's begin with the Lantern Inspiration. Of all the eye-catching moments during the Fiend's SummerSlam entrance, few were as memorable as the introduction of a brand new lantern, which came, as most do, in the shape of the old Bray Wyatt severed head, which just so happened to have its eyes sewn shut. I'm sure we all have one of those lying around the house for when there's a power cut. It is thought that horror mask maestro Tom Savini may be behind the lantern design, as he also created the Fiend mask for Bray, but it seems that whoever did make it got inspiration from a very specific place. Alice in Chains, the band, not the porn film, released a song called Man in the Box, also not the porn film, and the accompanying music video features a Bray Wyatt-esque figure at the very end which has its eyes sewn shut. Just get an eye mask, mate, and much less hassle. It would be very much like Bray to draw on something from rock music for his gimmick, and it wouldn't be at all surprising if this is where he got the inspiration. While the lantern may not abide by YouTube guidelines, it sure abides by this guy's guidelines, so do it more. Please and thanks. Hurt and Heal. Anyone who watched the excellent Firefly Funhouse segments which led up to the Fiend's debut will have seen that Bray had a pair of very special gloves, one which said the word heal and the other said hurt. The gloves seemed to be the angel and devil on Bray's shoulders, as he would often look at his hands, seemingly for some kind of guidance as to what he should do. Judging by last Sunday's performance, his mum packed 2 of the hurt glove in his backpack as the Fiend wasn't in any mood to heal anything. If you listen closely to the newly remixed entrance music the Fiend came out to, a voice screams, "Hurt! Heal!" repeatedly, which now looks as though it's the Fiend's catchphrase. Pfft, never be better than Chop of the Morning to you. But seriously, as Luke mentioned on this week's SmackDown Wrestle Ramble, just imagine a crowd of 80,000 people at a WrestleMania all screaming, "Hurt! Heal!" together. It could be one of the best entrances in WrestleMania history, which would no doubt then be ruined by Michael Cole screaming, "What a moment! I'm sorry for what I did." Another lyrics-related Easter egg here, or should that be Eater Egg, because, you know, he was the Eater of Worlds. On form today, lads. Another part of the Firefly Funhouse skits was the new Bray Wyatt seemingly doing everything he could to distance himself from the old cult leader gimmick, at one point using a chainsaw to decapitate a cardboard cutout of himself. Bray would talk about the man he used to be and ask for forgiveness. This ties in with a tweet the Fiend wrote to Kurt Angle after he appeared on Raw to attack the former Raw general manager. "Dear @real Kurt Angle, as a young man I idolized you. Today is no different. I hope you can understand. I'm sorry for what I have done. I wish you knew how much. This time it all has to be perfect. Revenge is a confession." Again, fans with expert hearing or too much time on their hands like me would have noticed that a voice says, "I'm sorry for what I did" in the background of the song, again hinting at the whole "I'm sorry but not sorry" character, or that could be Bray Wyatt apologizing before the Fiend takes back over, which is a lot more sinister. Blah! A staple of Wyatt's former gimmick was the blah 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 thing that signaled his entrance or his sudden spooky appearance in the ring. Much like the presence of the Fireflies, this part of the gimmick has not gone away, as you can still hear some bloops and bleps at the beginning of his entrance music, which is an amalgamation of all the sounds he's gone through as various different versions of Bray Wyatt. If fans of his previous gimmick were worried that the Fiend wouldn't include any of the old Wyatt at all, they would have been delighted to see how much of the former cult leader's gimmick was scattered throughout the Fiend. Despite having a new mandible claw finisher, the Fiend used a lot of his old moveset, and upon his return even hit a Sister Abigail on Finn Balor to set up their match at SummerSlam. Hopefully this is where it stops though, as no one wants to see him drop too far back into the old gimmick. If I see The Fiend cosplaying as Sister Abigail, I might have to leave Earth. Code Orange. When the Firefly Funhouse came back, many wondered what The Fiend's entrance music would be, as it would be a huge part of the in-ring return. It turned out that, while heavily remixed, it was the music he used previously. It is now being performed by Code Orange, who some may remember once did a live performance of Aleister Black's entrance theme at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. This new slower and spookier version of Bray's theme really has worked wonders, and really adds to the whole performance, which is basically what The Fiend's entrance has become. You would think that Wyatt was pretty much given creative freedom to do whatever he liked with the entrance, because I can't exactly imagine Vince McMahon walking into the office and saying, right, so to be a remix, and he'll be carrying a lantern that's actually his own head. But fair play to Vince McMahon, he still approved everything that's put in front of him when it comes to Wyatt. And considering how much he's been scrapping and rewriting SmackDown as of late, it's got to take a considerable amount of restraint to let this Fiend character breathe and let Bray do what he wants to do. His gloves. As mentioned earlier, Bray's gloves have played a big role in his character development, and he's continuing to use them in his matches, or at least this match anyway. During the fight with Balor, the Fiend repeatedly grabbed his own face, almost as though he was trying to rip the mask off his face and become good old Bray Wyatt again. Another thing it could be interpreted he was doing was using them as his moral compass, linking back to the hurt heel screams from his entrance music. Again, he clearly had one eye closed though, because he only ever seemed to look at the one that said hurt. Having gloves also comes in handy when your finishing move is the mandible claw, because there's no way you'd shove your hand in the mouth of a sweaty wrestler who's probably bleeding from the gums already. If there's one thing you can say about The Fiend, is that he's very hygienic. His unique nameplate. The vast majority of WWE stars have the default name bar, which is just their name in either a Raw or SmackDown Live border. You've got to be very special indeed to get more than that, and that's exactly what Bray got. It was a proper one too, with "Let him in" flashing up before The Fiend appeared over it. But even this was accompanied by a smattering of "let him ins" around it. It was interesting to see that he is simply being called The Fiend rather than The Fiend Bray Wyatt or Husky The Fiend Harris like some kind of local darts player. Hopefully this means that Bray is being taken seriously going forward, as the last person, or people as it is, to get a custom name bar are the OC of AJ Styles, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and there's no doubt that they're being taken seriously and being given a proper push. Custom names make you special. That's why they call me Chopper. I'm special. Finn's on his knees. Now, this one may be clutching at straws a little bit, but Randy needed to hit the word count when writing the script, and then he came across something that might actually be interesting. During the match, Bray Wyatt killed Finn Balor. Okay, he didn't actually kill him, but he did a move that looked very much like a neck break snap that you would generally see in action movies. However, just before the spot, Finn was kneeling in the middle of the ring while the Fiend stood over him and held his head. Now, can you think of anyone else who used to kneel in the middle of the ring while people stood around him? I know I can. Bray Wyatt himself used this exact pose during his days as the leader of the Wyatt family. So could this be the Fiend's way of once again saying the old Wyatt is now dead, taking his old pose and literally snapping its neck? Either way, it was a spot that genuinely caused shock face emojis all around the crowd and on both Luke and Ollie's faces during the live stream. It's the sort of thing that someone like Wyatt, who is an incredibly creative wrestler, would think of, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if this is what he was going for. The FCW throwback. As many people know, and Bray referenced it himself with the Firefly Funhouse character Huskus the Pig Boy, Bray Wyatt was once called Husky Harris, which will always go down in WWE history as one of the worst ring names of all time, alongside Skip Sheffield and pretty much anyone from the original NXT. Lucky Cannon, what even is that? What is an Eli Cottonwood? What is a mustache? That is a reference for a very specific promo from the original NXT. Shout out to those who actually recognize that. However, after the Nexus spectacularly failed, thanks John Cena, Harris returned to FCW, one of WWE's developmental promotions. While it never made it to FCW TV, Wyatt trialed a character called Axel Mulligan, who would come out to the ring in a hockey mask and act most fiendishly. Hello, Jason Voorhees. This character never made it to air, and Harris would eventually go on to become Bray Wyatt and start the Wyatt family in NXT. But watching Axel Mulligan seems to suggest that Wyatt already had ideas for the Fiend character even 8 years ago. And now, 8 years later, the Fiend has become a superior version of Axel Mulligan. What a crazy world the wrestling industry is. So those were just 9 Easter eggs we could find from the Fiend. Let us know if you found any others in the comments. But more importantly, check out Screenstalker, where you can see myself, Ollie, Luke, Laurie, and housemate Simon talk about and play games and movies and all sorts of other stuff. It's fun, promise. Click the video on the screen to be taken over there now, and press the thumbs up and subscribe here before you go. A special thank you to our pledge hammers on Patreon, some of whom you can see scrolling below me right now. I've been Chopper Pete Cornell, and that was wrestling.